Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another review of The Bad Batch, and this is something we're going to be doing a lot this year, and hopefully for many years to come. But I'm kind of curious, how much Bad Batch content you guys want on my YouTube channel? It's not like The Mandalorian where there's only 8 episodes a season. Bad Batch Season 1 actually has 16, including that very long one at the beginning, so I don't want to get you guys burnt out. Let me know your feedback down below. Speaking of burnt out and me annoying you, I've got to remind you for maybe the last time that tomorrow is the Twin Suns Tournament. That's the $20,000 Star Wars Squadrons tournament that I've been organizing for a few months now. Guys, I put so much work into this. I'm super nervous. I really wanted to do well. To be honest, it would mean the world to me if you guys would support me on this. I may do another video tonight kind of breaking down everything. But either way, you can click the link down in the description. You can click remind me so you're reminded when the stream goes live. You can leave a like. And just so you know, there's not only a stream on Saturday at 12 Eastern Time, but also the next day, which is when the finals will be played. You can look out for that to appear scheduled after round 1. Anyway, let's talk about episode 2 of The Bad Batch, which is called Cut and Run. And I've got to say, I've never been so thankful to get to an end of an episode. Not because I disliked the episode, far from it in fact, but because there were actually some leaks beforehand, before Cut and his family were even said to be in the show, that this episode was going to take a very, very dark turn. How dark? Well, you can look it up on Star Wars leaks, and I'm going to warn you guys, just in case Cut does end up returning, and it could perhaps be something later on in the season. I very much doubt that. But what the leak said is that Commander Cody was going to show up and murder one of Cut's children. Now, that would have definitely set the show down a very interesting path that would have been much, much darker than any Star Wars animated show that came before it, but personally, I'm glad it didn't go in that direction. But let's talk about the actual episode itself. What did happen? And just as a brief synopsis, the Bad Batch travels to Seleucami. They meet the clone Cut, who deserted from the Republic. He now has a family, and basically they're trying to learn how they can hide, because Cut's been doing so successfully for some time now. It turns out, however, that the Empire has begun its use of strong-armed authoritarian tactics, including code chains for individuals, and there's a real risk now that Cut and his family are going to be discovered. So the latter half of the episode turns into the Bad Batch helping Cut escape before, of course, escaping themselves, with the big thing at the ending being that Omega is almost sent off with Cut's family to live a peaceful life, but of course she returns to her, well, brothers, her uncles, her dads, whatever. This was a great episode, and I actually liked, I think on a minute-per-minute basis, this episode more than I liked episode 1. Episode 1 was great because it really set the foundation, but this was our first look at what the Bad Batch are going to be doing throughout the rest of this series. They're trying to exist in a galaxy which they only now partially recognize. Clones before, who were vibrant and often friendly, or at the very least creative and personal, are now, as was the case in the last episode, essentially just droids. The Bad Batch spends a lot of time undercover, so we get to see how the Empire is in its early days from the perspective of ordinary citizens. I will say, sort of undercover. I mean, Hunter still has his face tattoo or his birthmark or his paint, whatever it is, and is wearing his Rambo headband. So I mean, he's definitely still attracting some attention. But yeah, definitely an interesting look at very early Imperial life. We see right away that personal liberties are being locked down. They're trying to get citizens to register for these chain codes. What they're doing is actually really smart. They're making it so Republic credits are worthless, but the only way to get Imperial credits is to register to this chain code and transfer your savings over. And I wouldn't be surprised if most people in the galaxy also got significantly poorer and less mobile because of this. One thing I really liked in this episode is how the characters were handled. We definitely started to see the individuals move away from their sort of persona, and the best example of this, in my opinion, was Wrecker. This may be because he just had less screen time overall, but Wrecker was much more, well, normal this episode. Yeah, he was still strong and he's still, using his brute force, but he's also reliable in one situation where he's going to try to rescue Omega. My favorite character, though, and my favorite relationship at this point is probably the one between Hunter and Omega. It's really cute what they've got going on. She clearly is gravitating towards him in particular for whatever reason, and it's really cool to see that relationship develop. Again, it's different than other relationships we've had in Star Wars. Obviously, there are some similarities to, say, The Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, and I think we'll definitely see the similarities as well, where the sort of young person ends up teaching the old person a lot more about themselves than they expect, but it's still different because of the ages, just because of the type of relationship they have and how they both have a similar history. So that's great to see. This episode was just good overall, and it's especially important that this episode episode's good given how Star Wars Rebels and the Clone Wars started off, in my opinion. The Clone Wars especially has some weak early episodes. The Clone Wars premiere in particular, in hindsight, I think is pretty rough. Rising Malevolence isn't as bad, although we are dealing with some very early Ahsoka there, which I know grates on a lot of people. But this has been great overall. The characters have been likable. The animation has been absolutely incredible in this show. And just generally, I think the direction has been good. We're getting a lot of like smaller and quieter moments, which I'm really appreciating in a show like this. It's taking the time to slow down. And for a show like The Bad Batch, that's not something that was guaranteed. I posted on Twitter, in fact, that I think that this is definitely the best 2-episode start compared to the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. A lot of people agreed with me, and a lot of people also pointed out that this improvement can perhaps be tied directly to additional experience from Dave Filoni, and to me that makes a lot of sense. I have I wouldn't say controversial opinion, but a less than majority opinion that Rebels is better than Clone Wars in my opinion. I'm not sure if The Bad Batch will reach to that height, because one of the things about Rebels that I like the most is the exploration of Jedi and the relationship that we get with the Ghost crew, which is really tight in an interesting way. I don't know if The Bad Batch will reach to that level. I certainly hope it will, but I love the fact that it does seem to be a continuation of the Clone Wars, and I do think, I mean, given what we've seen in episode 1 with Kanan and Saw Gerrera, that it will continue to bridge that gap. Any complaints about this episode? Well, not for me, but I foresee a lot of people talking about how this is technically a filler episode, and I think they'll say that not because nothing happens, something clearly happens. The Bad Batch are learning how difficult it is to exist in this new post-Republic world. Sorry, I've got my baby here and she just yawned. And we're obviously seeing a lot of development between characters, but we didn't get any further insight really into any main objectives the Bad Batch will have this season. We didn't see Crosshair, we didn't see Tarkin, we didn't learn more about the Force that's pursuing the Bad Batch. To me though, that's completely fine. It will all come. On that note, one final thing I was sort of thinking about throughout this episode was, I wonder what kind of new baddies we're going to get this season in this series, because I think it's pretty clear it's not going to just be Crosshair. The Empire will probably have, not like an Inquisitor, but a version of the Inquisitor for clone troopers, somebody hunting down defective clones. My guess is maybe that's where we see Commander Cody come in. Maybe we'll see Rex and Cody have a sort of interaction, which would be very, very cool. But guys, that's all I have to say about the episode. Again, I really enjoyed it. I'm super excited for episode 3, probably even more so than I was for episode 2, just because I thought episode 2 was really well crafted. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think the Bad Batch will be doing in episode 3, where they'll be traveling. Right now, we've got no idea, which is really exciting. Whether we'll see any sort of new Imperial villain, all of that and more down below. Until next time, guys, be safe, have a good one, and may the Force be with you.